Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
the unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny.
Wow. Okay. We are live. Welcome to Bigfoot and the Bunny. I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I am Kristen Johnson.
And we had some technical difficulties with our guest tonight.
He had tornadoes and storms.
Had tornadoes. He's in Texas, and his internet was not allowing him to stay connected. So we were going to reschedule that date, and that was Daniel Duke, who seems super interesting. And I do encourage you guys to watch the follow-up date when we book it. Really interesting guy. He talks about Knights Templar, and he's related to Jesse James.
Yeah.
Seemed really cool. It's too bad. Seems nice. And we were able to talk a little bit, but you couldn't hear us enough, and we kept dropping.
A big delay as well. And
yeah,
awful.
Yeah. So we will do that again. We have a guest in the works, so we're kind of standing by to see if he can connect, because it's going to be a great show either way. And that's what's going on. Other than that, as usual, we can always just talk on the paranormal, the mysterious, the unknown.
And the paranormal.
Yeah, exactly. And the paranormal twice. We can talk about it 2 times. Because,
Sure.
Why not? We hope you guys are having a great weekend. It is Saturday, November 5th, 2022. And if you're just out there in the audience, I wonder, how is your year going? We're coming to a close. We got 1 month away before we're into 2023, basically. And was this year all you expected? Is it good, bad, and different? Are you getting used to these COVID years where, a lot of stuff just kind of went sideways? And I think we're all still, as a planet, figuring out those implications. I know it's had some implications in my own work and certainly life. And, Kristen, this had a lot of effects. We were out getting booster shots of some kind of other thing that wasn't really a booster. It was something new, I guess. That went well. Didn't get so sick. But it looks like our guest is joining. So we're going to have a show for you, and a very interesting one. We're going to have our guest join us, I guess, in about a month. But I am glad he could join us early. His name is Brandon Cooper, and he is a shaman, a very paranormal individual. And we got to talk to Brandon a bit last night on Greg Koss's show, The Shadow Hour, which you can find on Shadow Hunters on Facebook. Shadow Hunters paranormal and themes and events, and events is at the end. But if you guys know us, you know that show, and you're probably watching us talk.
Yeah,
because we're on there occasionally, and we love Greg, and we love those guys. And Brandon works with Supernatural Inc., who are the creators of the NanoCom here that we had set up just in case we needed to go to like a ghost box show and do some spirit communications. And who knows, maybe we'll go that route. We do that a lot. Let's bring him right on. He can tell us about himself. Good evening, Brandon.
Good evening.
Let me preface this with a huge thank you.
Yes.
For coming in last minute.
Yes, thank you.
Helping us out here.
No worries, man.
You are our savior.
Yes.
Bro. Thank you.
I do what I can.
You're doing a great job.
Wonderful.
You got the gnome.
Yes.
Yeah, identical twin gnome.
That's right. He's always with me.
He doesn't have your piercing though. I think you should put maybe a little.
Well, the reason why I got that is we've always got to check 9-volt batteries when we're paranormal investigating. So you just stick it right there on the old piercing, and there you go.
I am pretty much free of piercings at this point. Now, when I was growing up, I got an ear piercing, one ear, and later I got a nipple piercing, and that mofo hurt. Oh my God! Don't play with my nipples.
Don't do it. Don't.
I totally
Yep.
respect people that do the nipple piercing. I'm not sure if you got this stuff. I'm not putting it down.
But it just hurts like
It
that.
is very painful, and I had a friend who had his genitalia pierced.
Oh.
Like he had a keychain, apparently. I mean, I didn't witness it, but he apparently had a lot of things going on downstairs, and then it seemed like that was a lot to go through.
Why?
You know, I've been practicing standing up to use the bathroom for so long. I don't need to reverse that with any kind of extra holes, shall we say? So
right, actually, getting the back problems, as you get older,
right. I just
dragging me down. But if it would extend things, I guess I wouldn't mind that.
Hell no. Just
Hell,
well, there's that.
Well, yeah, we went right there, right out of the gates. And
Yep.
again, I want to thank you so much for coming on here last minute.
thank you again.
We had planned to have you on, and we will in another show. But I am very intrigued with you as an individual, being a shaman,
We both.
working with Supernatural Inc., a company we know and love their products. And maybe for those of you that don't know Brandon Cooper, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into shamanism. We'll go from there.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. And also, please bear with me. I am under the weather, so if I cough some, I apologize. But it's that time of the year.
It is funny to share. We were sick for 2 weeks individually. Our kids were sick, still are sick somewhat.
Still sick.
Like 2 weeks later, you don't know whether it's COVID, if it's the flu, if it's a flu COVID. We don't even know. We don't know what's going on. It's like I don't even want to test anymore. Like,
well, my wife and I were clothes shopping yesterday before Greg Costa's podcast, and I was coughing, and people kept looking at me. So I just finally said, looked at my wife and said, this cough got worse ever since I got back from China. And they just left me alone. And that was,
That's great.
You can't even cough now. Anyway, you know what?
No.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
It's a little better now, but say a year ago, I would be shopping. You know what I mean? You're in the supermarket, everybody's masked up, and I would have a dry throat, and I would cough, and I'd be like, "No, I swear it's not COVID."
Yeah.
Right, yeah. You have to explain yourself.
You do.
Exactly. It felt like I was caught robbing a bank or something.
Exactly.
Wasn't me, man. Dynamic style, E3.
But again, we appreciate you, and please tell everybody how you got started.
Yeah, sure. So I was, when I was born, I was raised on the Cherokee Res up here in Cherokee, North Carolina. My clan is the Blue Clan. Hello, Anthony. Even though, yes, Courtney. There we go. Sorry, my mind's going crazy.
Yes, we solved that mystery last night.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. Yes, we did.
We were wondering who you were, Courtney.
So my clan is basically has always been the healers of the 7 clans. So I guess I was kind of born into it. Didn't really have much choice.
When you say a clan, are you referring to a tribe or?
Right. Well, okay. Inside the Cherokee tribe, there are 7 clans. You have the blue, you have the paint, and you have, others.
Mm-hmm.
They're just divided into, kind of like a corporation. Okay. You got the mailroom, and then you got, logistics. That's sort of how. Yeah. That's kind of how that's broke down.
Is that geolocation? Is it like by the area that you're in, or some other means?
Partly by which area you're in, and partly it just goes back predating our written language, and so it was just kind of one of those things that we just went with.
Okay,
It's wonderful.
Yeah. And unlike other tribes, ours goes from our mother's side. So, just handed down. If you're paint, your mother was paint, your grandmother was paint, on down the line.
Mhm.
Right.
You're gonna be painting.
I like to paint. I'm a painter. But so I don't know. I was born and raised around it, and the paranormal kind of went hand in hand with living Native American, even though I am what they would call a breed. You have two types on the reservation. You have bloods and you have breeds. Oh, so I was called that a lot, which is, believe it or not, a derogatory term.
Mm.
But we all go through it,
Yeah,
nerd, geek,
So-
breed. So
You're related, but you might have other people in there as well.
right, I'm Irish and Cherokee, so
Wow.
yeah.
Excellent.
I fit right into the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, that's pretty much our ancestry around here. But so as I grew up, I always had this, this want to be in nature, needing to be close. And my elder, who she passed away in 2003, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her in a minute. She realized and recognized what my talent was, because you can't learn shamanism from family. That's just part of the rules,
Okay.
So she recognized it. Yeah, and I'll touch on that too.
Oh, this is all good. We're just gonna have a conversation, man. I loved it.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I
again,
loved it.
thank
I'm
you
good with it.
the 13th time. Thank
No,
you.
no, man. You know what? If I'm available and somebody needs some help, then here I am. So don't worry about it. I was just sitting downstairs anyway, watching Travel Channel paranormal shows, because I'm a glutton for punishment. So this gets me out of the recliner. But so I was taken under her wing, and we moved all to the upstate of South Carolina. But every summer and every winter, I was up there and spent lots of time with her and underwent the training. And then probably, I believe I was 14 is when I started the initiation process, the vision quests.
And this is from your elder.
Right. So, that's kind of when I started coming into my own, about 14, 15, 16.
Okay. So although it can't be passed down, you were kind of born into this, right? So you had it around. And
Right.
For those that aren't familiar with that process, and when you say things like Vision Quest, besides having a glimmer of maybe some 1980s movie in my mind, what exactly is a Vision Quest, and what is that like?
Well, and all across different cultures, there's so many different types of vision quests or whatever. But in my particular instance, sweat lodges are involved. And I still, to this day, about once a month, I do a sweat lodge. And I think we recorded the heat about 2-3 months ago, and I think we got it at about 280 degrees in there.
Goodness.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
Damn.
Yeah. So I mean,
Isn't
if you don't see something in that kind of heat.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot going on.
So do you use psychedelics?
I have.
You do the sweat. You have. Okay.
I have.
They don't necessarily have to go together,
No.
but it's
No, but that was part of the initiation.
Okay.
Okay.
So like you said, it was 280 degrees. So yeah, you really don't need anything for the.
yeah, good
No.
Lord. Is that even like healthy after a certain amount of time? Can I imagine?
Yeah, I mean, you're not in there the entire time. There are 4 rounds, each consisting, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Different ceremonies happen in each round.
Wow.
Different herbs, herbal medicines are taken out. Different prayers are given. But I mean, if you have to get out, you get out, for a minute. The only round that you are not allowed to leave the lodge is the fourth round, which is we call it a buffalo round.
Okay.
The buffalo is one of the most powerful spirits. So you're in there for like the long haul, for the whole until me and my elder, who now one of my elders and trainers who teach me the ways of Sweat Lodge. His name is Gray Eyes, and he has and we're in there until we reach where we need to reach, because we put these sweat lodges on, and we've had up to 30 people in a small sweat lodge helping them. So we've taken on all that energy. So the buffalo round is by invitation only. You're not getting out until we're done. So a lot of people don't stick around for that, but that's usually where we hit that point of complete letting go of everything, because if you fight it, it gets hotter.
It's a sort of transcendence.
Right. It does. And it takes us in the shamanic practices, or medicine men, as you know, I think those two terms are interchangeable. Shaman came from the Andes. That term came from the Andes, and that, shaman just means the one who knows. So,
okay.
I use it. I mean, you can call me medicine man, whatever, but shaman, somebody just started calling me a shaman. I went by medicine man for the longest time, and it just sort of stuck, but they're interchangeable.
Sort of like witch, warlock, sorcerer.
Right. They're, sort of, they're interchangeable. It's
to some degree. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's what's that word where it doesn't pertain to one sex or the other? It's
well,
you know what I mean? Like you said, witch, warlock, sorcerer, kind of interchangeable to whatever.
Yeah, you can use witch either way. Warlock tends to lean toward like a male.
The male, right?
Something, but not everybody likes that term. I know I used that term for a little while. That was like my moniker, and then I was like, well, that's not really working out so well.
Yeah.
People are like, how you doing?
Right.
Well, I'm a warlock. Well, okay, you're scaring the shit out of me.
Exactly.
Right now.
Exactly. Or if you're a horror movie buff like I am, you go back to that movie with the warlock and the horrible graphics, and that was a great movie.
True that.
Yeah. So, I don't know that you want to be associated with that movie.
No.
Maybe not necessarily, and I'm not nearly as nefarious.
No, not at all.
No.
But
no, this is quite a thing. So, you went through the sweat lodges and what that experience is about. And sweat lodges something you do now? Is it something you do on a regular basis, or
yes.
was it more or less for those initiation trials?
No, I do it continuously. I haven't done it in a couple of months just because I just haven't had time, because it usually takes about 4 days. But I try to do it quarterly at least. So 4 times a year. If I can get it in, I'll do it up to as much as once a month if we have it. Not only is it cleansing internally, but externally, because you're sweating so much, and you kind of detox the body through all the sweat.
Right.
So, it's actually very healthy. However, I do want to throw in, and I'm sure you're going to ask or somebody, but the stories of the sweat lodges where people have died.
Yes.
The one in particular that was in the upper Midwest, 10, 15 years ago, where they had several die. Well, that was ran by a man who charged money for it, didn't know what he was doing. When the people died, he was back at a 5-star hotel. He wasn't even in the sweat lodges.
Oh, it's awful.
So there are, and they had no medical personnel, no medical training whatsoever. They were just doing it to get the money.
Right.
Yeah, that's horrible.
People would be attracted to this idea of
right
lodges and whatever else came with that package, and he put them through it, and had a little champagne in the
Right.
canal suite. I see. That's
So-
very unfortunate.
And it's bad because there for the longest time it gave sweat lodges a very bad name.
Yes, it did. Mhm.
And
I
it's still
remember.
kind of, people that are my age and a little bit older that remember that. There's still clicks in their head when they hear sweat lodge. Well, people that do it, we don't advertise. It's kind of like you got to know somebody to get into the sweat lodge. B, we don't take pictures of it because you're not allowed to take any type of photography or anything. Well, this dude had a whole website.
Sure.
Yeah.
It
So-
reminds me a little bit of more of the more recent like ayahuasca trends, where people
Yeah.
go on these tours or adventures and book a trip, and it's all kind of shady all around.
Mhm.
There aren't provisions put in place for people that have a bad trip or very little, and they don't really take care of them. They're really looking to angle as much money in as possible, and that's
Right.
stupid because
Yeah.
it's a beautiful spiritual
Experience.
that
Mhm.
that could be there for them, that like the sweat lodges.
That's one of the first things that comes to my mind when I think about when you say sweat lodge or somebody says sweat lodge.
Right. And it's sad again because there are legitimate ayahuasca campuses out there,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
legitimate, and it's given them a bad name. Because I have been researching ayahuasca because obviously it's not something that we have around here and we wouldn't use it, but I'm very interested. But I'm also I know to check my sources.
You can make it off of things
Yeah.
on Amazon, but the idea
I
of
don't want it
having,
right.
right, you're going on your own, right? You're kind of
Right.
winging
Yeah.
it, and you're not getting the assistance, obviously.
Well, because the
Yeah, proper
the drumming is a huge part of ayahuasca and the experience. Well, how am I going to drum when I'm high on ayahuasca?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
maybe for the first time,
We
Right.
understand.
you
Yeah.
know, what the hell am I doing?
right. So
Right.
I mean, there are legitimate ones out there. So if anybody is looking and interested, kind of stick to the California side of the U.S. There's some legitimate ones that are popping up out there.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it's good to know.
Safety is such a concern, and your mental health, especially in those kind of situations. I mean, we're familiar with psychedelics, and not saying here we trip every day or whatever, but
Right.
we know that it's not something to toy with necessarily.
No.
Especially if you don't know the dosage and the strength of such things.
Mhm.
Right?
Right.
Get yourself in a very mental predicament, as well as make yourself open to characters that are not of the highest morale.
Right.
Well, and I mean, think about the type of people that are drawn to those kind of things is the beaten and the broken.
Yes.
The last thing they need is somebody that's just trying to beat them out of something else.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a thing like that. And curiously, as we say that on YouTube, we've got a spammer. And
I see that.
I'm going to put that up there. See, you see where this goes. Now I got to block this person. Like, really?
Right. But it's private dating chat girls with cherries.
with cherries.
Yeah, what cherries?
Cherry on top.
You are reported.
Yeah. Goodbye, sexy find XYZ.
It's always somebody trying to take advantage of someone else, and
Exactly.
Case in point.
Yes.
Not a realm you want to go down when you're talking about hallucinogens or different things. It could really affect you.
Yeah, it could definitely destroy the fragile mental health state that somebody is in when they're so desperate they're just going to reach out and pay $10,000 to upwards dollars to somebody. So
right.
yeah, it's
Yeah, Reginald says, "Hey, high on energy, nothing else. Rockstar, e-drinks don't count." LOL.
okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Those Rockstar drinks are pretty good, and you can get them in like no calories.
Yep.
We've been doing a little bit of keto on the side, trying to shed a few pounds. Found a blood sugar was a little high and all that, so I'm appreciative of the Rockstar drinks. Yeah, exactly. You don't need these things, but you might also, encounter something spiritually through that path, if that's the right path for a particular person. We're
Right.
neither encouraging nor discouraging those
Yep.
paths. We're certainly taking a few, and always discover something, right?
Yep.
Um, how do you think that works as far as like being a portal? I guess we went right down that road with the hallucinogens, and I don't mean to put you on the spot with that because not
That's
everybody
okay.
about it.
No, that's
So
fine.
But we're open, and we're always open with our audience.
Yeah, but you're more
Yeah.
open, I believe, that when into negative things, negative energy.
Well, what the problem / beautiful thing about it, because it's each in its own right, is the openness that it brings. I mean, you're open to some of the most beautiful revelations. We call it once you hit that spot, we call it the knowing, and that's just that feeling that you know everything, but yet you know absolutely nothing at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and that can be beautiful, or that can be so terrifying that it just, if the right teacher or practitioner is not there with you to help you through that, it's going to be devastating to somebody who's already hurt, already looking for help,
Feeling
So-
damaged.
Oh, I
And
agree.
it's a vulnerability right there. You're putting out in the open, yet at the same time, and I know what this feeling is, where you're like on the verge of revelation, right? Kind of have this great revelation, it's starting to all make sense. Now here's a funny thing: is like THC and smoking weed, right? I
Right.
think it is kind of an in between in a way, and sometimes that revelation turns out to be goofy, like just unnecessary.
Mhm.
Like, well, you're going, wow, dude,
Right.
the guy pulled up in a 1989, GMC. It means this or whatever, and then you figure it out later when it wears off and go, well, that really didn't mean anything, man. But Mr. Hand, right? We were talking about
Right.
the other day. Mr. Hand, it's a pizza. It might be something a little bit bigger too, right? Sometimes these things do affect your life.
Yes.
I know mushrooms can be an interesting experience. Do you
Oh,
find
yeah. They,
play a role in the culture of a shaman?
yes. Mushrooms are very big, especially in North America, because it's so readily available and it has been around forever. So those types of hallucinogens, peyote, are quite prevalent. And that was all part of the initiation. Now, nowadays I don't need it to get to where I need to go, but that's also because of years and years and years of training. But when you're starting out, I mean, of course, like the psychedelics, right? The psychedelics kick started in, and yeah.
I like that word. We'll call it training.
Yep.
Yes, I've had the mycelium, farm going. I understand some of this. Yes.
Well, even the VA now is treating or looking and testing mushrooms in micro dosage to treat PTSD.
Yes.
They're also using ketamine.
Yeah, and that one kind of surprised me.
Yeah, it surprised us.
But
yeah.
I haven't had any ketamine experiences.
I don't.
Yeah,
know.
we
I
don't know what that
things.
one
So
is exactly like, but I'm not opposed to it. Certainly,
Especially in a micro dosage situation.
That's key.
Yeah,
that's key. You can learn a lot from a very small dose of mushrooms,
professor
daily or in some sort of routine. There's a lot of material out there, documented about those, and absolutely, science is taking it seriously now.
Thank goodness.
For the first time ever,
right?
As far as like mental health and different conditions, and finding that these minuscule amounts can have a real impact, a greater impact than the typical antidepressants that are shoved out by the pharmacy companies. I know a lot of them are trying to make it into a thing. Here's one pill a day, kind of magic, and pay us $4,000 for that bottle.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, and
what is it? If it's organic, don't panic.
That's right.
Exactly. I've never had a side effect from anything organic that I've ever done.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But here's the culture of mental health, and at least in the VA system, they had me on 23 different pills a day.
Wow, that's a
Mhm.
lot.
Uh-huh. And and I'm going to call out the VA system. I found out that their idea of fixing you is getting you to 30% of your, health. If we can get you at 30%, you're good.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
I find this all fascinating. There always seems to be a money reason behind everything.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And we are the guinea pigs and we're all paying that money.
Still 30%,
Yeah,
though. It's
you know,
nuts. It's stupidness.
what does that accomplish? Besides creating a 1% out there that eventually controls us, which is a topic that we go down that road occasionally.
Mhm.
Not that we're conspiracy theorists. There
No,
just
but
happen to be a
still,
lot of conspiracies out there.
Well, and some conspiracies just so happen to be true.
Exactly.
agree.
There's always been a 1%, and we
Mhm.
like to reference the Anunnaki when we talk about that because it seems like from the beginnings of time and organized civilizations, there's always been somebody controlling that civilization, and now we see it as industry and that sort of thing, and it's not
Right.
just pharmaceutical companies, but they don't always seem to have our best interests in mind.
They never do. I agree.
No,
That's
no,
nuts, though.
I totally agree.
Touching on this,
But I mean, what are you going? I mean, but what are you going to do?
You're right. I don't want our audience to think that being a shaman is all about hallucinogens by any stretch, because it's certainly not.
No.
No.
There is
No.
a lot more there, but it's something that people think of, I think.
Well,
when they think,
it's a question it is a question I get a lot, and I'm completely open with it, especially doing podcasts now, because a lot of people have never met a shaman before in their life, and they've got all these questions. Well, what kind of shaman or medicine man would I be if I don't answer your questions? I mean, that's the whole point.
Mhm.
So
Sure.
yeah, I'm completely open with it.
the idea
But
isn't like, hey, I'm gonna get high and then I'm gonna see spirits, and it's not
Mechanical
that.
elves.
It's not that, right?
right, no, right,
Right.
no, not at all. Like there's a lot of just meditation. I mean, I would say hallucinogens are 0.01% of what a shaman does. I mean, a
Mhm.
lot of it is nature work, deep, transcendent meditations. Probably meditations is 85% of the work.
Control of one's mind,
Right.
because we may have lost some of that control, right?
Exactly.
I think we all get put in this sort of, I don't know, we call it the matrix, right?
Mm.
Like lifestyle where it's like, hey, I got to get up, I got to go to work, I got to do this because society tells you to do it. And then you're missing so much of what life might have to offer. Talking about the cell phones, right? And
Right.
looking into that little black box in your hand and focusing all your energy in it. And how many people are doing this at this point? They're missing what's right in front of them.
Right. Well, I mean, and anything can be a poison. Working too much is a poison. Drinking too much is a poison. Using psychedelics too much is a poison. I mean, for one, I don't drink. I went down that road, and it nearly destroyed my life. And for some people, that's what happens. I'm not downing people who drink. Hey, you do you. I don't care. It's the alcohol in and of itself is an inanimate object. It's just how the person, takes it.
Right.
So
right.
it's, and it's not about that. It's not about, let's get high and let's go see spaceships and whatever.
Right. There's a purpose.
Exactly. And that's kind of why I brought that up. I wanted to get that out of the way. I think a lot of people do associate ayahuasca and other substances with the idea of shamanism. And, we know that there's a whole lot more there. We're talking about, bridging certain gaps and achieving certain experiences, but they're not necessarily to, be goofy and eat too much pizza. There's a lot more going on.
Yeah, and generally it's one of the first questions that get asked, and then once we get that one out of the way and how small of a percentage it is, then people are more apt to listen. because they're like,
Sure.
oh, you're just not, you're not out there getting high all the time. You're doing
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
I
Right.
wanted to make that point because
Exactly.
as much as we appreciate those things, there are certainly a lot more, and certainly more driving and deeper questions that can be asked
Mhm.
than whether you take mushrooms or not.
Reggie has a question about that real quick.
Oh, okay. Can you pull it up? I'm having trouble seeing.
Um,
Up one more. That one. Thank you.
okay. Reggie says, I hope this is a legitimate question. People do say drugs open you up to more experience, but if spirit that needs your help shows up, could it affect your judgment on what to say to them?
And since that just takes us right back to the whole microdosing conversation. If you so choose to go down that path, we take small doses. So you're still in control of all of your faculties. You don't want to go in there drunk or completely messed up and not know what you're doing. All it is just like a little push, a little nudge over the edge. It's not, I'm going to eat this whole bag of mushrooms. So yes, if you do take too much of anything, it will affect your judgment and you will not be able to connect to the spirit or the one that needs help, and you're not going to be able to help them. So yes, it would.
I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And the substances may act as a little bit of a bridge, but it's very minute. I mean, you're already there.
Right.
This is just something to increase it.
And like I said, I don't use them. I mean, I don't need them.
You don't need to. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
No, we got you. Just trying to explain the substances in general.
Oh yeah.
Whatever it might be. It could be alcohol. It was probably the worst drug in the world. It's socially accepted and pushed commercially.
Well, alcohol is the only drug that you have to explain to people why you do not use it.
What do you mean?
If somebody says, hey, do you smoke weed? No. Well, that's the end of that. Hey, do you drink? No. Why not?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. That is true. Right. There's so much push of it. Not to say that we don't ever drink, but I don't think it's necessary to accomplish anything. In fact, there's a lot of downsides to it. But sometimes it might make you more open to spirit. It might help, just like anything else. But it's really nothing to rely on. To circle back to what you first said, meditation. Now there is something, regaining control of one's own brain,
right,
and your thought processes, and be able to slow down, take things, see what appears, opening up the third eye, as it may be. It seems a whole lot more important than dropping mushrooms.
Right, and it is, because when you're doing it, like when I meditate, and I do it 2 to 3 times a day. If I need answers or I need to help somebody, I'm in my meditation room for hours. And if I were under the influence of something, I might miss something, because information comes great and small. So the meditation time gives you plenty of time to sit with yourself, which is a dangerous place to be for anybody, and pick apart what you're getting. And to do that in a clear state of mind is, in my opinion, the epitome of important.
Yeah,
that's one of the most important things. Yes,
I would agree. Interpreting these messages that might be hitting you through the day, but you miss it. How many times do people tell us, well, the spirit guide has been trying to tell me for years, and it took me
right,
for it to appear before me where I understood it, to make those communications.
Yeah.
Do you feel that we all have spirit guides that are maybe trying to guide us in this lifetime?
I definitely believe that we all have spirit guides. We all have spirit animals. And here's the difference. If you are in tune, you can speak with your spirit guide and figure things out. If you are, like, let's say, a non-believer, your spirit guide is still guiding you, but in less obvious ways. So yes, I believe that we all have a spirit guide or an angel, or however you so choose to define. But yes, we all have something that is trying to help us, ancestrally or whatever. But yes, I do believe everybody has.
It may seem like a weird question, but why do you think they persist in these things? Like, why do our ancestors come back to help a person get their life together? What is the motivation other than love?
Well, one thing that popped in my head and has been, and I've been meditating on, is generational curses.
Oh, we've spoke about these before.
Fascinating. Yes.
Please.
They could be coming back to try to stop or to help stop this generational curse. That I believe in the 7-generation rule. Some people believe in the rule of 3, whatever. But it could be trying to help guide, and I know this is an extreme example, but child abuse is generally a generational curse, which is handed down.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I am not defending people who abuse children. I would lose my mind, and
We hear you.
Oh, we understand.
But this is just an example how it is. The grandfather beats the father, and then the father beats the son,
Exactly.
and then it just keeps going until something stops it.
Right.
So
yes,
that's one thing that I think is to stop the generational curses.
Well, here's an interesting thing. One thing we've noticed on our shows, and the real gift of being able to host shows like this, is that we get to talk to so many people with different experiences, and they tell us, what their experience was, in particular their childhood. One of the things we ask almost everybody is like, were you haunted in your childhood? Did you have paranormal experiences?
Mm-hmm.
These sort of things. And we've found that almost all of them that pursued this as an adult in some way have had some sort of paranormal experience as a child, but also other forms of trauma seem to play a role as well.
That is correct. And another trend that I've kind of noticed is if you are an only child or the oldest or the youngest, you are generally more into the paranormal.
Oh, well, that's us.
Yes.
We're both
But
only
yeah, we're
children
both
growing
only
up.
children.
As am I. I'm an only child. And I ask it a lot on my shows. Like, are you an only child? And 9 times out of 10, it's yes.
Oh, there you go. Right. Because you have this extra time.
Right. You're there. I mean, you're there with yourself. Your parents are busy, or you're a turnkey kid like I was in the 90s and the 80s. So,
Yeah. No, we were both turnkey, latchkey kids.
Latchkey.
For sure.
Yep.
It leaves you with a lot of time. And sometimes that time is spent in the woods, walking around, walking trails, that kind of stuff. And a lot of time with nature, which is a gift. Even, though at the time it might have seemed like, well, it's kind of lonely or whatever. There was the time was given to communicate with nature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, because I remember as a child, I don't remember much of the inside of my first house. I can tell you everything about the woods, from growing up, but I don't, I can't tell you much about, how the inside of the house looked. Because,
spent outside in nature.
Yeah.
Exactly. Come on when the streetlights are on.
Exactly. Right. Don't bother me. Go play. Got it.
Right. And things are different now. Like I think modern parents and ourselves included, are certainly not as loose. And with those rules, I don't know if it's because the world has changed and now we're aware, like, hey, there are serial killers out there with black vans. Like a big urban legend when I was growing up, where there were clowns driving black vans in the neighborhood abducting children. It sounded spooky as hell, but I don't really have a lot of data to support that urban legend.
Well, and there has been a trend in parenting that I don't think that has changed. Like, there's not a lot of self-soothing when you're now parents nowadays. They're, oh, let me grab my kid, he's crying, I need to show affection. Which affection is great, but back in the day, it was, you're gonna lay there and you're just gonna cry yourself to sleep.
Yes.
Right. Well, that taught us more discipline and more how to fend for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that has anything to do with it as well, but
we agree.
That's how tribes have raised their children forever. The mother held on to the child, skin contact, for about a year. And then after that, you're on your own, kid. We're just going to make sure you don't die.
Self-reliance was
Mhm.
something that might have been pushed, and it certainly is a good quality. At the same time, I also think maybe some of that generation kind of lost a little bit of it just simply is put as affection that they needed, to feel better about themselves. So it's give and take, right?
Right. Yeah, it is.
No right answers.
Well, yeah, there's definitely no right or wrong, but I still firmly believe that it takes a village.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes.
To make an idiot.
No, I did that on my own. I didn't need any help.
No, I hear you there. Absolutely. All right. So you're growing up. You got introduced to these sweat lodges as a sort of form of mysticism, right? Of bridging
Right.
these gaps. What happened from there? Did the sweat lodges bridge those gaps for you? Were you able to see maybe a greater consciousness than our own?
Yes. At one point, I remember it like it was just like a switch was flipped. And that's when I already believed it, but that's when I really started to feel it, that we are all connected. Everything has an energy. Trees will talk to you, animals talk to you. Everything is connected. And that is one of the bases of shamanism throughout the years. And when I finally realized that and was able to feel the connection, that's when I was off to the races.
It's awesome.
That's
really good.
excellent. Emery Young comments, we weren't allowed to blame others, made to take responsibility for the things we did. Neighbors were family. And
Yes.
I so agree with that.
Mhm.
You have to be responsible for yourself. And whatever that we want to call growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever. Yeah, I think that is well put, Anne-Marie.
Yes. Very much
The
so.
idea of self-reliance and self-responsibility, more in particular, is a big
And
one.
I also think that we could get away with being out in the woods and stuff because we knew the neighbor that lived over there. If something were to happen, we weren't afraid. We could run straight over there and be like, Bill, hey, I need help. And you knew that they would be there. So that sense of community is a very important lost art, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah,
we agree.
we all kind of get in our own worlds anymore because we have the internet, we have things at our fingertips. We don't need to be in person. Quite literally, we're doing this interview over the internet, right? So we're not
Right.
in the same room, and that is something that was different than when we were growing up.
Well, and on one hand, it's a great achievement because, especially for me, all I want to do is help people and help them become the best they can. And I can reach a whole lot of people this way. I'd have to sit on a whole lot of couches the old way. But, but on the flip side, I'd much rather be sitting in there with you guys sharing energy. So
I
there's the
love
give and take.
Definitely. Ooh,
And this is great, but we didn't need the Dewey Decimal System to put it together, and I guess that's a bonus, right?
That's correct.
Unlike when we were growing up.
Oh, that was my Google.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right here.
well,
Yep.
And there are people out there listening that are saying, Dewey, what?
Oh, I know. I said that to my kids, and they looked at me like I had some sort of creature growing out of my forehead. And I'm like, what do you?
Did you not feel like you were 300 years old at that point?
I did. I'm like, okay, just leave me alone.
That's right. We
Yeah.
had horse-drawn buggies as well. It's
Yeah.
all a mishmash at that point.
Right. It was driven by dinosaurs. I get
no,
it.
I was just gonna say when my son was 4 years old, he was in the back seat of my Jeep, and I was driving, and he sits up in front, really, really serious. He goes, "Hey, Mom," he says, "Did you have dinosaurs back in your day?" And I'm like, I pulled the truck over. I'm like, "What? Like,
Right.
how old do you think I am, child?"
Right.
But he was 4. No. But
Well,
yeah,
and there's also something to be said about growing up in a day when the car doors weighed more than the cars.
yes, we talked about that, Chris and I, and I'm like, God, I miss those cars.
Yeah.
True. And seatbelts was a
Seatbelt
real
was
option.
yeah,
then.
an optional.
I'm not
thing.
even sure all of our family cars had them.
I don't, you know, growing up, I would always lay in that little spot where the window comes down and there's that little flat in the back. I'd be laying up there, and if they slammed on brakes, the seat stopped me, you know? So.
Right.
That's awesome.
Bill,
Right.
Work
Hello.
Shaman, sorry.
Shaman Brandon, brother. Is that might be Carl. If that's Carl, hello. If it's not Carl, hello.
Hello.
And Marie says walk 10 miles to school uphill in a snowstorm.
That my
both
father
ways.
I was little, both ways, exactly. And I really thought he really did that until, I don't know, like my 20s.
Right.
Because yeah, gullible I was. Like,
Right.
you really didn't do that, did you? Because people would say it, and I go, my dad did that too. Like, so serious. Because
Right. Yeah.
Happened, you know. I walked home from school, and I think first grade from my school during a snowstorm. I'd missed the bus or something like that, and they're trying to reach out to my parents, and it was quite the walk. I believe I was picked up at some point along that ride, but I remember just walking in the snow and stuff like that happened, and it wasn't that unusual at the time.
Well, no, like I remember just walking around downtown I grew up in a small town, mind you, but I mean, I would just go to town and I'd come back later. Like it's 8 miles from the house. I'd be on the bicycle, go to town, go see the people at the old hardware store, whatever. And it was very common just to see kids out and about.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just attached to their phones or games or something.
Walking into telephone poles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh God, I did that so many times talking to girls. So embarrassing.
Oops.
Yeah. Oh, I meant to do that. Ow.
So you had this experience of going through the sweat lodges and trying to communicate with spirit. What was the next step in that? Like, without giving out too many details, because obviously we're not, in the tribe.
Well, once the realization happened, then you begin to kind of focus, almost like a doctor nowadays has a focus, a general practitioner or surgeon, or so I focused on like medicinal plants and ceremonies. So you kind of once you get the whole big picture, then you just sort of start learning, what you're good at, and if then you focus and you just learn. I mean, you still learn everything. So I like to say shamans are more like a jack of all trades and a master of none. But I like to finish the actual phrase because the rest of it is because it's sometimes better than a master of one. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. In my own job role where I work, and without getting into too much detail, I'm a little bit like that. Like I'm spread out through a whole bunch of different responsibilities, and it actually gives me value to have that, to not just be focused on one thing. And if something goes wrong with the 10,000 other things, you're useless. Having a widespread knowledge base is very, very important.
Yeah, it definitely is, because back 1,000 years ago, the shaman was it. Births, weddings, funerals. I've got a cut on my back. I've got cancer, whatever. It was the shaman that had to handle all that. So that's when once like I said, once I hit that realization and realized the whole connectedness and got the ability to go into the three shamanic worlds, then you start learning the practical side. Like, can I eat this? Can I, what do I use yellow root for? Stuff like that.
Yeah, that takes a lot. Like,
what would those three sides be? I know we watched videos, again, the internet, right? Exposure to cultures we otherwise wouldn't have exposure to, where the native people were talking about a blue world, All right, reference to
Yes.
turquoise and a love of turquoise because it represented this blue world, which I think was the world before the world we're in now.
Well, it's also it's kind of like the Hopi Nation. The Hopi Nation is on their third or fourth incarnation.
Okay.
I
Yes.
believe.
It was. Mhm.
And so they would be talking about the world previous to this one, where it I'll use Hopi as an example again because I'm friends with their chief over in Arizona, and I just got a phone with him, so he's fresh on my mind. But like they crawled out of the river of the Grand Canyon, so they left their second plane of existence, crawled through a hole in where the water splits, and came onto their third plane of existence. So if they're talking about a blue world with turquoise, they are remembering the previous knowledge of before they transition to this world.
Mhm.
But in general, the easiest way to put it is the three shamanic worlds are the underworld, which is not to be confused with the evil. So let's change that. Let's call it the lower world, the middle world, and the upper world.
Mhm.
The Greeks kind of thought of the underworld that way.
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily bad. There
No,
was
it's not.
that were bad, I guess, if you were being punished in some way, but the underworld was kind of a over encompassing area of being deceased. Frankly, it's just another place to go.
Right, and even the people who were carrying out the punishment, they were not innately evil.
Nope.
They were just doing a job. Now, and we could get into a whole theological discussion where we bring into Christianity, and obviously that's
Right.
evil, but but in our little world, in our context, it is. Oh, and by the way, I do need to shout out to Carl. I saw it was him. Carl is my producer. Hey, buddy, I got to shout you out. Okay.
We just followed you.
So, but you encounter different beings in each. So the middle world is going to be kind of like here. Except so, but you can talk to the animals, you can talk to the trees, you can talk to the moon, you can talk, you talk to whatever you want to because they talk. That's where you get the interaction, kind of like this plane. And the upper world has its own creatures and knowledge, which is more of the ethereal, I guess, if you want to put it. And then the underworld has its own. It's really hard to explain it, but each incarnation has its own little twist depending on what you need to know. Like if you need to know like a more omnipresent view, you go to the upper world because you can see everything. If you need to know, I don't know, let's just say weather or crops or whatever, that's your middle world. And then your underworld is you're speaking with those who have gone before, as it were.
Yeah. No, I love this. Right, this is
Love
good
it,
stuff.
yeah.
I don't know about the middle worlds too much, other than I guess we're in them, more or less. What about what were you taught about? I should say. Let me rephrase that. The communications between worlds.
Oh, that's why we're here. We are the intermediary between all three worlds, as far as for our job. Now, are you saying can the different worlds talk to each other and to us? Is that what you're asking?
Well, certainly, we believe that, but I wanted to hear your.
Oh, okay. So yeah, okay. Sorry, I got a little confused on the question.
Oh, that's okay. I'm a very confusing person.
That's okay. I like it. Yeah, there's always communication in between. It's not constant. They can if they have to, but generally, if you're getting a message, it's from one particular plane of existence. Because if the three talked at the same time, it would be super confusing, conflicting energies, and nothing would get done.
Yeah. I
Sure,
agree with that.
sure. I mean, it's
I see
confusing
that.
enough.
Mhm.
People get a lot of communications that they don't really understand, meaning people that are not necessarily trying to communicate.
Right. Excuse me.
Sure.
Was there a question there? I was about to cough.
No, I'm
and-
just commenting that
Okay.
there are people I think that get messages from their guides or what have you, through the day, and they don't necessarily know what it is that is being communicated to them.
Well, and my favorite example of that, and I love using women as an example. Not only are they beautiful creatures and the life givers, they are to be worshipped, in my opinion, because without them, we would not be here. So, woman's intuition, that's your spirit guides talking to you. But whether you want to call it a spirit guide or not, I mean, there's absolutely no physical way that you know what your kid is doing or if your kid is hurt. It's not possible in the physical world. That's your spirit guide giving you that little nudge in the gut going, hey, something's wrong here. And that goes to people that just don't actively seek out and listen. And that goes to what I said earlier, that there's always a spirit guide with you. Whether you're actively seeking out communication or not, they're still going to kind of guide you. So yeah, like women's intuition.
They're trying on their side to reach out to us to better help our lives or continue some sort of, I don't know, continuity, I guess,
Right.
in our lives, to not let that go astray or get too chaotic. Yet, we're not told, I guess, growing up in most cultures, hey, listen to these things, listen to your gut, listen to the messages that are coming across, which is something different, I guess, than what you experienced, right?
I mean, yes, right. And I want to answer, I think Joshua Dixon just said, but women couldn't have children without men.
Yes.
Let me clarify. let me say a little something. In the Cherokee culture, the women rule the world. They make the decisions. It's not rare to have a female chief. We are raised to honor our women. But I'm not saying they can do it alone. And I'm not picking one side or the other. I'm just saying you wouldn't be here if the woman didn't carry you.
Absolutely. And we love that, of course,
Yes.
I think some cultures are, but what's the term? Yoni, I don't know if it's Yoni worship or whatnot, but we'll focus on that very point, Mother Earth and that sort of thing. And
Right.
that's beautiful. Of course they do. To myself personally, it's like, of course, kind of thing, and not
Right.
something I got to struggle with, like, oh, they can't handle it.
Well, and again, I'll have to throw out the disclaimer: not all women are great. Don't just go around and worship any woman. But I'm saying the female power, the female entity, is very, very, very powerful. Guys, we go down on our knees on a kidney stone, and they throw out a watermelon. I'm just putting it out there.
Oh my God.
Well, culture has changed. At least, the United States culture has gone to an area where it couldn't have been dreamt of 50 years ago.
Right.
It's better. I don't think it's completely fair, or so, we're told, I guess, but we're getting there. At least we're making progress in that direction because, of course, there should be equal rights and equal pay and all these things.
Absolutely. We're
It's
still not.
ridiculous
What the
to
hell?
think otherwise.
Well, I still think it should be merit based. Okay, equal pay, I'm good with that, and equal, but you should also get rewarded for your merits and not handed a freaking a participatory trophy or whatever. Oh, you did a good job. So yeah, thanks for coming. Somebody had to sit on the bench. I mean,
right? No,
Yeah.
An equilibrium needs to be reached before, but unfortunately, this world and the next and the one after is not fair. And if it's not women, it's going to be minorities. If it's not minorities, it's going to be something new that we discover that we're afraid of or don't understand. And it's unfortunately it's human nature. But yes, we have come quite a long way from woman get in the kitchen to now you can, look at some countries that I've actually been to. Women are not allowed to go out without a male escort, the brother or the husband.
Right.
We've seen an uprising in Iraq,
Mhm.
lately, as far as wearing,
That's hilarious, Reginald. Reggie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I agree with that one, buddy.
And it's a wonderful thing to see. Iraq being a place where they actually had a whole lot more going on with women's rights back in the 60s than they do now, because religion came in and took that away from them.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say in the 60s, they were like us until the
Yeah,
got appointed and
They wear skirts,
Yeah.
if you look at the pictures and the juxtaposition thereof,
Yes.
And it was like I was also in Afghanistan and fought, and then when Afghanistan fell, and the one thing that upset me the worst is all I could think of is there were children, female children, who never grew up under oppression because we were there 20 plus years.
Yes.
And they didn't know what was coming and what was about to hit them. And that was the worst thing about, politically, whatever. I don't care. We should have gotten out of there. Whatever. That's not for me to say. But what is for me to say is I feel really bad, and hopefully those women were raised strong enough to where they can rebel against the crap and go back to school, because the only way we're going to stop war is through knowledge, not guns.
Oh,
very
so
well
great.
put.
Well
Yes.
put. Yes. I love that.
Yes. We
So,
agree.
shamanism, I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is an advocate for things like animism. And that is, many things that we wouldn't ordinarily think of could possess a consciousness, a soul.
Yes.
When they say things like spirit of the wind, like the wind itself may have a soul.
The wind. Well, and okay, go ahead, continue.
No, actually, I'm hoping you can elaborate, because
certainly, yes, the rocks have and it's not a conscience or a consciousness that we think of, like that you and I have, but they are alive and they are conscious. They are not just inanimate objects. They are here for a purpose. They know their purpose, and they help. Just like, okay, did you know that trees use mushrooms and fungi under the ground to communicate with each other?
Exactly.
Oh, yes. Well,
scientifically proven.
Yes.
we understand
talk to each other.
mycelium, but please enlighten our audience. I think.
Okay, so and I do like the wind is not okay. Let's pray the easiest way. Nothing that isn't alive, like if it's not alive, it doesn't move. Well, the wind moves. And can you tell me how the wind moves? And not low pressure to high pressure. I don't, but it moves. It moves on its own. So it is conscious. It knows that it needs to blow against the trees in order for the trees to grow strong roots. It knows that it needs to push these storm clouds over here because these people really need some rain.
Mm-hmm.
The trees know that, okay, I'm going to need to produce this fruit or these nuts for the animals and the humans, and they actively do that. It's not just a passive robotic action. They know what they're doing, and they are conscious. They do hurt when you chop them down. Exactly. They do feel some type of pain.
It's some sort of communication going there, right?
So they're alive.
We're touching on the mycelium, and the mycelium is the sort of network of mushrooms that haven't blossomed into the fruit, because they're more or less a fruit when they make the
Right.
mushroom. But under the ground, there's this big network, and it can go on for great distances,
Yes.
the size of football fields. And trees use this as sort of an internet to talk to other trees.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
They even know their own young.
That's right. They
Yes.
can recognize their own young and will protect them
Yes.
in some way, and then try to choke off a tree that isn't part of
Yes.
their family.
Right. And if it's a completely different breed, if you come in there and you plant something, if you're in a bunch of pine trees and you plant an oak tree, well, those pine trees are going to team up against that oak tree.
Yes.
Yeah, don't bring that oak shit over here.
No, don't you bring that hardwood bullshit over here.
You're out.
You get out of here. So that in and of itself is indicative of a consciousness, because they know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hey, I mean, what more proof do you need?
Exactly.
Information?
May I take a 2-minute break real quick? I just need to go hit my inhaler. I will be right back.
Sure.
Of course. We will be here. I'll pull you out of the stream. And what do you guys think about this? I mean, are you familiar with the mycelium knowledge that's being transferred from tree to tree? Have you heard about this stuff?
We've
we
touched
are
on
very
it. Yeah.
interested in this. Panpsychism is a
Mhm.
philosophy that expounds on these kind of things. Talks about this inert matter, because we are all kind of made of the same stuff at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might be in a different order, it might be in a different configuration, but essentially we're all carbon-based life forms. Yet some of us seem to do different things, right? And if that's true, that we're all kind of made of the same stuff, this consciousness, this experience that we're having may be able to traverse some of this other seemingly inert matter. And as far as that goes, perhaps we appear as inert matter to other life forms.
Very true.
I see Steve just joined. Hey, what is up, Mr. Stephen Allclair? I want to know when
Steve.
Silly Rabbit is playing, brother.
Yeah, we talked about that last night.
That's right. We'll be out to see you guys. Silly Rabbit being a fantastic band I got to play a small role in back in the 90s. Kind of reformed and out playing. If you're in the New England area, I totally suggest you check out Silly Rabbit.
Yep, it's a good
Josh
band.
says, great analogy and truth. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate that. Anne Marie says, ever hug a tree and get emotional?
Yes.
Takes away negativity quickly if you relax and listen.
Yes, it does.
And it looks like Brandon's back, so we're going to bring him back on.
I do apologize.
Oh, no worries.
It's fine.
I felt it coming, and I just didn't feel like coughing my head off during the podcast. So.
There have been so many colds going around this year.
Yeah, it's awful.
We said at the front of the show we've suffered our own. Good gosh, I don't remember a fall like this.
No, me
To be
neither.
honest with you, it seems to like go and come back and like a boomerang. It won't leave us alone.
Yeah, but I also have a lung disease that I got from overseas combat. So,
oh goodness, I'm sorry.
Well, I signed a dotted line. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, it is. It'll flare up its ugly head like maybe around this time every year. So,
Interesting. My son has allergies, environmental allergies, all kinds of allergies, and this time of the year is ridiculous for him. So we understand. He's got an inhaler. He's got two different ones. Interesting.
Reggie says, the universe knows all with precision. The tree drops a leaf. When the wind blows, it lands in just the right spot. All right. So there seems to be an order to the nature and the progress of things. Is this something that you learn becoming a shaman?
Yes. And the word chaos does not exist. It is all ordered. We may not understand, and it may look like utter total chaos, like tornadoes, hurricanes, natural disasters, but there's a reason behind. There's a greater reason, so it's an order. and it's a methodical order.
It's a fine line, right?
Right.
People like to say things like, well, it's in God's hands and things of that nature, yet they might be ignoring something they could obviously correct on their own. Like, how do you
Well,
discern
and
what
yes, okay.
hands?
I have Christian beliefs. And okay, yeah, it's in God's hands, but God also gave you freaking common sense.
That's right.
Yeah, agree.
There you go.
And God gave us doctors.
They did the medicine men of other times.
Yeah, a lot of people do not believe that.
Yeah, right.
the Great Spirit or God or however you so choose, because I try to steer as far away from religion as possible and stick to spirituality.
Yeah, so true.
But I mean, he gave us the knowledge to help, and he also gave you the ability to ignore it. So it's not so much as in God's hands. I believe there's a verse in the Bible that says God helps those that help themselves.
I believe that. I think there is. Yeah.
So
that could as well be in the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey.
No,
it would probably more than likely be in that one as well, knowing the background of that. And that's a whole nother podcast. There's nothing.
Absolutely.
Oh, we go in all sorts of directions.
Yes, we do.
But it's true. I think he would absolutely, if he were alive, back that statement up. Life helps you as much as you put into it. It can't be all led to like, well, whatever God says.
Right.
Like
Jesus take the wheel. Who said that Jesus knew how to drive?
Right.
I love that. Thank you. That's awesome. Right. Yeah. True story.
There's a reason why we have free will. And and unfortunately common sense is not a flower that grows in everybody's garden, but
Very true.
Speaking
the only reason that you have a bad day is because you choose to have a bad day.
Your interpretation thereof.
It is yes, that's correct. If you wake up and you say, I'm going to have a good day, guess what? You're going to have a good day.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to take what's going on at the moment and just slow it down and say, what is happening to me and what do I control? If I have no control of this, well, however I want to interpret it is kind of what my reality is going to be, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
what is the world trying to teach me right now? If you just sit back and okay, all this bad stuff's going on, but what's the lesson here?
Right.
Just perception.
Linda says that this might be a bit scientific. We know electricity exists by how it works, even though we can't see itself. We have to look at how trees behave to see how they work and believe that we can influence them with our love. I love the last line there. Love, electricity, we know how to manipulate it, but we don't really understand it.
Yeah.
Like gravity and so many other things we take for granted in our world, we don't totally understand even through science.
Well, and the easiest way, we'll just stick with the electricity thing. The reason that we know how to manipulate electricity is because it lets us. It could destroy anything and everything if it wanted to. And I said if it wanted to. It's a conscious thing as well. And the only reason that we can control it is because it lets us.
That's right. I can't agree more because we are energy. We feel energy. I mean, everything around us is energy.
Well, we're a freaking electrical battery on the inside. So,
now, per your teachings, like growing up, do you think there is a way to communicate with electricity aside from the obvious of connecting wires on a spiritual level?
I think so. Like it is electricity that causes the hairs on the back of your neck to stand up, and when you're in a situation that something's about to happen. I think electricity, or which also encompasses obviously static electricity and other things. It gives us warnings subtly, like it even warns you before it strikes. You know, like people that say, hey, you know, I was almost struck by lightning and I felt all the hairs on, you know, my body stand up.
Mhm.
Well, there's your warning. It's telling you, hey, it's sending a little bit of itself out there saying, hey, you better do something real quick because, you know, I've got to do this.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's a very subtle, just like any of the elements, speak very subtly. But yes, you can communicate. Well, I would say because of the more destructive powers communicate to you more than you really talking to it. It tells you, hey, you need to be careful because I really don't want to hurt you, but I have a job to do.
Well,
Sorry, what-
concepts like good and evil are subjective in a way, and in kind of a very big way. There are certain things that we could all agree were evil, like, say, child molestation or something like that. But there are so many gray areas in there.
Well, okay, prime example with the Cherokee. Some people have called it the Cherokee demon that we have the ability to call forth. However, the only time we call it forth is when we're going to do a hunting party or celebration. So, is that really a demon? It's got very destructive power, but it also helps us go out there to eat.
That's right.
Very true.
That's right.
So,
Hunting deer to feed ourselves, is that evil? I mean, it's certainly evil to the deer.
right, but they know that they're here, they may be food. They know it.
Do you think they do know that on some level?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's why you have the eyes on the side for prey animals and the eyes in the front for predators. They know what they are.
Oh, that's interesting. I have never thought about that.
That's why humans, we have our eyes right here in the front, just like dogs, wolves, bears. All predators have their eyes right here in the front. All prey animals have their eyes on the side. Horses, sheep, cow.
Interesting.
So that's and that's how you can tell the difference if it's a prey or a predator animal, and they know their hierarchy.
Life's simple guide to a barbecue.
That's right. If it's looking straight at you, don't eat it. It'll eat you.
Right. Maybe
unless it's alligator. That's delicious. You can have that.
Good Lord.
Delicious.
we
Those
were
things
talking
get
about things like the wind having a consciousness. Are there other areas there where people might not expect in shamanism where there is consciousness, and what does it mean? Like the spirit of the mountain, the spirit of the river.
The explanation of that varies from tribe to tribe and circle to circle, but it just boils down to each mountain is in of itself its own entity. So like Everest, for example, is obviously worshipped, and it's its own entity because it controls. Sometimes it chooses to kill. Sometimes it chooses to let you come up and see the beauty. But ultimately, you're not in control. The mountain is. So it is in and of itself its own entity, just like the stream. You can bathe in a stream and it lets you, but when it gets angry, it'll flood everything and restart everything from anew, and it knows what time, when it needs to do that, when it needs to flood. That's why they have the Fertile Crescent. The two rivers, they know, and if you watch them, when they flood at the same place at the exact same time and go down the same path, so the water hits the exact spot at the exact time.
Yeah,
that's fascinating. It's a deep thought.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to be conscious of that,
right,
and making moves that are maybe not within our range of perception, really.
Yeah,
but it goes on. Just it's the cycle of life.
Well, and the easiest way to say animals have the consciousness. Well, look at your dog or your cat. and just look at look how they look at you, and tell me that they don't have a conscience and know what's going on.
Oh,
Yeah. Of value.
Right.
No,
Like, you know that your dog loves you because of that look in their eye. And anything that can convey emotions through eyes has a higher consciousness than what most people give it credit for.
Oh, for sure. Like our cats.
Our cats, most
the
definitely.
blinky eyes, right?
Right.
And it's such a touching thing because, you know, being aware of what that means, I love it. You know, the cat's kind of in trouble, but it gives me the blinky eyes, and
Yes.
you're like, right.
And the cat knows exactly what it's doing. The cat's like, I'm in trouble. He likes the blinky eyes. Engage.
Very true.
So,
just gonna
all right. Steve says, I go back to my parents' house and sit by those trees that I climbed. Pirate ships. I'm referring to as youth. I feel safer under those trees than anywhere else. I remember every branch.
And the fact that every branch remembers you is why it feels so safe. Because that branch, those trees remember you as a kid. Remember you growing up. Remember you sitting and maybe taking a nap under their shade, which they grew specifically for you. Of course. That's why you feel safe.
Such a wonderful way to look at it. And to look at life itself in a whole.
And I think a lot of people look at that. Well, the tree doesn't have a brain, right? How can the tree possibly remember? Yet it has a consciousness. Do you think the memories are stored in a sort of, I don't know, ether?
I just think it goes back to the whole shared consciousness thing. Somehow, somewhere, it's recorded. Just like, okay, we can flip to the paranormal side, just like stone tape theory.
What is it? Stolen tape theory?
No, stone, like rock, stone tape theory. And the theory behind that is, let's say a traumatic murder or event happens, and it's near rock or whatever. Well, the rock can remember and hold on to that energy, and then that's where you get a residual haunting. It'll just play that energy back. Gotcha. And, you know, wood can do the same thing. Most houses are made with a good bit of wood. So somehow, I mean, you know.
It's the first we've heard of that. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
We talk about residuals a lot, and I like that. You know, thank you.
Yeah, well, research stone tape theory. It's very interesting.
I write everything down. I'm writing everything down that you say.
We got a mini library of notebooks over here.
Yes, we do. And I always go back and
go
look
through and we check out,
search it,
and just add to this body of knowledge, which is a real beauty. And you know, I'm so grateful. We're very grateful to our guests because it's so enlightening to get people's perspective and a different take. I mean, you couldn't possibly research every single viewpoint, and we get a lot. Let me ask you this: a question we ask a lot of our guests. Did you have haunted experiences or paranormal experiences in your childhood?
Yes, I did. And coming from the South, up where I live up here in the mountains, it's pretty much a given that everybody believes in the paranormal. But as a Southern rule, you just don't speak about it. But I did my grandfather when he passed, and there were several prior to, like, I would see shadows and stuff in my nursery, and but I wasn't at a cognitive level to realize what it was, but I do kind of remember.
How old were you? You said nursery, so I'm guessing you were really young.
Yeah, I think my first memory is when I was like 1 or 2.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it's just small flashes. It's not it's just not a cognitive.
It's interesting to think back. Like, you can still recall that at your age now, and so why does that stand out for some reason that you can bring that back? And we have similar things, and we go, why? I can't remember where the bathroom was on the floor map of my house when I was that age, but I have this memory of I don't know, something very haunted occurring.
It's kind of trauma. So
it's trauma. It is trauma in a way.
It's trauma, and is it because at that point in life you're more instinctual creature than anything, And so is it the instinctual, hey, that something's not right? You need to remember this in case you run into it in the future. And that's why it's so ingrained. You're teaching yourself through the instincts. This doesn't feel right. Remember this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, perhaps that is what it is. A lesson. Take forth as you grow. We both had haunted childhoods, and they were scary. They were frightening. And
they were, I had very frightening up until my one of my grandfathers passed away when I was 10, and 2 days after he was buried, he came to my room to visit me. He had a stroke and he couldn't talk very well, but there was just one particular way that we would tell each other that, I love you. And the man was standing there and he said those words because I didn't get to see him before he died. We didn't make it to the hospital in time. And so from that point on, I was like, all right, there's something more to this, because that was my grandfather. I smelled it, everything.
Yeah. All your perception said this is him. Yep. And he from the other side, or whatever we want to call it. But I love you. And how what a gift that is, right?
Yeah. And that's like, that was like I don't know what the rules are over there, but that's him consciously making an effort to say, I want to go see my grandson and let him know I'm okay and tell him I love him one last time because he couldn't make it.
That's fantastic. I think that's wonderful. There's a question from Anthony, aka Courtney Karras.
Courtney.
Brandon, do Native Americans have the equivalent of a zodiac?
Yeah, we do. We do, and we have different animals assigned to that zodiac. Now, that is not a very big part of my studies. So, but if you have any questions, I do know some people in the tribe that's what they do, and I can get you answers. But I can give you the roundabout answer. Yes, we do. It is sort of similar to like, okay, I'm a Pisces. So, if you look at all the Pisces, caring, healer, giving, blah, 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 whatever. Okay, it fits. Well, the Native Americans use similar. It's not exactly based on stars per se, but it kind of is. So, yeah, okay, short answer. Yes, we do. Long answer. I don't know enough about it, and I don't want to lie to you.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, that's fine.
That's all right. People
perfect.
talk about, especially in things like the History Channel or travel, about star people. What can you tell us a little bit about the influence of them in the Native American culture?
Yes, and aliens or whatever, star people or whatever you want to call them, is a huge, huge part of Native culture. The natives have had a open communication with the others for centuries. I don't exactly know how the bond first started, but I do know that we as shamans have been teaching since the beginning of time that we come from the stars. And in the 1930s and 1940s, quantum physics backed us up.
Yes, they did.
So, without getting into, because I've got a whole thing on that I could just dig deep for hours on, but without getting in too much,
that means you have to come back. That means you have to come back on. I'm sorry.
To the show.
Okay. I mean, I'm if you ever, like I said in the text when you guys sent me a message, if you ever need me and I'm available, yeah, I'll be here.
Thank you.
And it's my honor to be on your show. Like I said yesterday, I'm a nobody out here, and I'm getting picked up to sit and chat with people that I've never met in person, and it's truly and deeply my honor to be invited into your personal space for the amount of time I have.
It's our honor, actually.
Yes.
Brandon, we so appreciate you and for coming on. This is fantastic, and
but we've got to talk about that.
I have more questions, about about stuff, because I don't know what it's like. We don't know exactly what it's like to come up and become a shaman through our culture. Now, I see a lot of people pick up a book and become a shaman, but we know there's other people that are kind of born into it and in their culture.
And now let me throw a disclaimer out there. There's you said people pick up a book and learn it. Well, there are people that are called shamanic practitioners, and then there are shamans. And the main difference is shamanic practitioners have never gone through a ritual or an ordeal to become a shaman. They just learn it
through the book,
through the books, or a teacher or whatever, but they've never done the sweat lodges or whatever. And that is the difference. Now, that being said, there are some wonderful shamanic practitioners out there. Wonderful. But you just know the difference, that one is more of a born into predestined pathway. Because, in my opinion, nobody chooses to be a shaman, because this is not an easy life. You don't choose to personally suffer, and we suffer a lot, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, because this is why we dance for hours before we even start, or drum for hours before we even start doing anything. It's because we have to push aside our own freaking egos, or we don't get anything. So, doing anything for hours on end is just exhausting.
Yeah, it has to be.
But, that's just the way it is. But shamanic practitioners, they generally choose to take this path. And again, I'm not knocking anything. You just need to know that there is a distinct difference between the two.
Thank you for letting us know that.
And well put.
Oops.
If there were one area of the shamanic practices that you could define as probably the greatest revelation, what would it be? Is it something like life after death? Is it the world is alive around me? What stands out to you?
I can put that in one sentence. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And when you get that basic aha, then the world looks completely different. Your loved ones aren't gone. The energy just transformed. They're not gone. They can never be gone. Your pet that died a long time ago. No, the energy just transitioned. They're still around.
I love that. What about reincarnation? You say they're still around. Do you believe in reincarnation?
In a way, I don't believe in it the way the Hindus and the Hindus and believe that you come back till you get it right or whatever. I believe in a reincarnation, but you are changed into another vessel to specifically learn a lesson. This is why, as humans, some of us are here for 99 years. Some are here for 20 days. Like my daughter, she was born, she was here for 20 days, and then she moved on.
I'm so sorry.
So, no, it happened a while back, and it was best for her. But that's why there's no set lifespan for a human or an animal. It's whatever you need to figure out and learn in this incarnation is as long as you're going to be on the earth. And then once you learn that, you can you go to some other thing. It's a constant search for knowledge. And knowledge, you can put books. Understanding. Let's put it like that. So, yeah, I believe in reincarnation, but not I'm going to come back like a cow, or if I was a bad person, I would come back as a cockroach.
All right. So no hard, fast rules with that.
No, it is whatever the energy so chooses and whatever the path is. Yeah, I don't believe there's no rules that we can wrap our heads around.
Do you think we make that choice on the other side, perhaps?
I think if I had to answer that, I would say it's a collective decision. Because again, we are not individuals. We are all part of a collective. And I think that decision is made in some type of collective conscious decision. Like, okay, what is best for you? We need you to do this because this is coming up in the world. That's why every life is valuable, because every life is an energy that has come back to learn something or to do something. And ultimately it's supposed to be for the betterment of the earth and everybody, but then we throw in free will and all that and it gets convoluted. But yeah, that's kind of my opinion in a nutshell.
Well, mentioning that, do you feel free will exists, or are we kind of on a defined path the whole time?
50-50. I think there is a definite direction. Now, how wide of a berth of that direction is up to us. There's what we are meant to be and do, and what we actually do. So there is a defined path, but we can certainly stray off of it and never get there by our own free will. So that's why I say it's yes and yes.
Are there punishments associated with that per your teachings? Like Christianity would have that, all right, you're not going to hell, but we're going to put you in purgatory for a little while.
Oh, Abraham's bosom. Yep. I think there is some type of punishment, but is it more self-inflicted of once you reach that energetic state again, are you like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. That's what I was supposed to do. Or I don't know that there's a big old, and I have to be careful how I word it, because I also do believe in the existence of demons. And in order for demons to be there, there has to be a hell. So, or something.
Or does it? I don't know.
Well, that's why I say or something.
You're right.
Because their main jobs are to punish and pain and anguish, and but
is it though? I mean,
the definition of a demon,
yeah,
it takes on so many forms.
Mm-hmm.
It may be simply a messenger to another god, a greater existence than the demon itself. It may be born of chaos, as some of our guests have pointed.
I just wrote that down because I wanted to go through
from
that
a tragic event, and it may exist in the collective consciousness because other people believe in it.
Right.
What were you taught?
I was taught that. I mean, as far as the demon, and I always use quotes. It is. They are what they need to be at the time. However, I think they fall into a special category of they also have some type of free will and a little bit more power than your regular old spirits. So if they so choose to cause harm, they can and will. But I don't know. I've stayed to myself for so many years and done this and was kind of pushed out to get the word out. So I'm not as eloquent as I should be yet on explaining my views. But
it's a journey.
Getting there.
Yeah,
it's a journey.
We understand that too.
And we're absolutely coming from the same place.
Yes.
Like we want to know those answers and we don't know them all, right?
Right.
So the question, because everybody has different experiences. So they bring something to the table just based on the life they've led, right? And what they've experienced, seen, or showed them. And I love that. And again, please don't feel like you're being put on a spot.
No. I don't at all. It's just
in the best of ways.
It helps me grow too, because if the whole point of the podcast and stuff is to get information out there. So when I get questioned and I trip up, that means, and I make a note of it. And I'm like, hey, I need to figure out a way to word this so everybody can understand what I'm trying to get across. So it actually helps me in my journey. So yeah, I don't feel put on the spot or anything. It's actually a very good learning experience. So yeah.
Yeah, a fascinating
with
thing
you.
that we came across recently was that the word demon or daemon, it seems to reference sort of a messenger between people of ancient cultures like the Greeks, the Egyptians, and the greater gods. Yet the word messenger is the derivation of the word angel.
Which also falls into the demons, fallen angels.
It implies that it's an
Kind of.
entity kind of serve
Yeah.
more or less the same purpose.
Being consciousness. Yeah.
And there may be
Right.
entities out there that we don't totally understand.
I'm
That
sure.
may be greater, they may be older than humans. It's a direction that we like to go down, a road we like to take occasionally because we want to know those answers just like you, right?
Right. And I 100% believe there are entities or whatever label you want to put on it that are much, much older than man. Elementals, they exist. The star people, the others, they are much, 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 much older than we are. And so could they be misinterpreted by a personal belief? Of course, and that's where the organized religion comes in and pretty much tells you and molds you, tells you exactly what you're going to think. And that's why I'm not very big on the organized religions, because
We're in a
I am. I believe in God. I do believe Jesus, and he was here. He was real. There's evidence. But as far as tell me what to think, no, I don't subscribe to that.
Yeah, well, isn't it curious that it really isn't, clearly defined in a book? And some people would say, well, that's the Bible. But then again, they keep changing that Bible. And and they're like, I'm not sure I agree with everything. And if you read it really literally, it's a terrifying book.
It is. There is no hope. You're all condemned. And that's just the Old Testament.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah. And then, then you get a little glimmer of hope in the New Testament and under the New Covenant. But yeah, it's a terrifying book. And the last chapter is horrifying.
What's the last chapter again, please?
Revelations.
Oh, yes. Oh, good Lord. Yes. Sorry. But yeah.
Is quite scary.
I mean, it is like
the four horsemen.
The four horsemen of the apocalypse. I mean, come on.
Dude.
That's frightening.
It's wicked frightening.
It certainly is in today's times. Well, we've gone on for quite a while, and we want to have you back.
Yes, please. I have questions.
Show. And I promise that.
Oh, well,
we have lots of questions. I mean, keep going, but I know you did this on the spot for us.
Yes, and God,
I mean, we can finish it out and do 2 hours if you want. I'm okay with that.
No
We've
problem.
gone this far.
Sure. Okay.
All right. You asked, therefore your wish shall be granted.
Oh, thank you.
The line from Hellraiser. What did you?
Yes.
Yes.
Demons to some, angels to others.
That's right. That's right.
And that's my ringtone, as a matter of fact. And it's funny that you mentioned Hellraiser because that is my favorite franchise.
Oh yeah.
Did you see I'm sure you saw the new one. What'd you think of the new one?
I've seen half of it.
Oh, well, we won't see.
And then I've already been on 2 movie review podcasts, and we've already talked about it. But I haven't seen it. But I got over halfway. I tried to watch it when I was doing a Paracon down in Joplin, and I was just so exhausted that I made it through halfway. Like, I haven't seen the new Pinhead in the movie.
The new Pinhead looks cool as heck.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? Everybody was all pissed off because it's a woman. Well, you know what? Cenobites are hermaphroditic anyway. They're neither male nor female. And in the graphic novels and in the books, she was a female at one point. So get over yourself.
That's right.
Sorry, Hellraiser.
No, that's great.
And why should it matter, right? The people.
It doesn't. I mean, okay.
Standpoints, I think.
Well, it's because the main goal is to torture you. So who cares what they look like?
Right.
You're
It might be
gonna
actually a
die.
little sick, and
Right.
somebody thinking that Pinhead has to be a male inflicting this pain. There might
There
be
you
some
go.
psychology behind that. Really, I love that she was female.
Mhm.
It brings a different thing to the table. The movie itself, and in I think our opinion, it's okay. There were some new things. It's well done, but
Well, it did inspire Clive Barker. He is writing a new Hellraiser.
oh, that's great to hear. I love
I didn't know that. No kidding.
Mhm.
Awesome.
I've read a bunch of his books and I don't know, I hate to say how long ago because it'll age me,
Back in my
date
day.
me. Back in my day, I was reading books of blood and sitting there.
I walked to the movie theater uphill both ways
In the snow.
in the snow on razor blades.
That's right.
Snow.
In the stuff. And that's all true. But what a cool series, to really be a haunted object series.
And not only is it haunted object, but it's my favorite genre of horror, body horror, because there's something so visceral about the human body and the way that body horror portrays it. And on top of that, it is a cultural commentary.
Mhm.
Always with Clive, right? There's a lot.
There is a lot of cultural commentary, and people just say, "Oh, it's just a stupid horror movie." Well, why don't you sit down and watch it and actually watch it? What is
Right.
this trying to teach me?
Right.
And,
So,
and there are analogies there where he wrote this stuff in like the 1980s, so with like AIDS and HIV being
yep.
prevalent at that time, and basically a game ender. If you got it, I think the man is brilliant. I love his art, and
He's bringing in the S&M culture.
absolutely.
And that was
It talks about well, it just is basically pain and pleasure put together, which is a great metaphor for life in general.
right.
Life is pain, life is pleasure. It is all these things. To compartmentalize it and put it in a little box, well, then you do have bondage, discipline, and S&M, sadomasochism.
Right.
These things exist because there's pain, there's pleasure associated with them. Yet that is our life experience overall, even if you don't partake in those particular or peculiar sexual activities.
Right. And that's why I think that line from the movie, demons to some, angels to others, that just says it all. It just depends on who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the Cenobites they don't care. They don't care one way or another. They're just there to do their job.
Right.
They have a function.
They have
Leviathan sent them out to do just a specific job, and that's what they do. They don't care who you are. They'll even bargain with you if you're really not their target. They will bargain with you like they did in the first when they bargained with what's her name, the daughter in the movie. Look, I'll give you this box back if you leave me alone.
Yeah, can I swap one person for another?
I will give you who you want if you leave me alone. Okay, because that's who I'm after anyway.
Interesting that contracts even comes up. I mean, that harkens to things like somebody sitting on the crossroads, like Robert Johnson playing his guitar, for example, making a deal with the devil.
So there's so many layers to. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of those middle Hellraisers were just horrible, but
yeah,
the Chatterer really gets.
Oh,
me.
that's creepy.
The imagery of the Chatterer with a.
I just got his autograph, the original actor's autograph that did Chatter.
Come on.
Yeah, it's so
awesome.
cool. All my autographs are downstairs, but I've got the original Pinhead's autograph, Doug Bradley's. I'm actually friends with Paul T. Taylor, who played Pinhead in Hellraiser Judgment, which was the last movie that came out before this one.
Wow.
And he's an incredible actor. He's doing a lot of B movies right now. Paul T. Taylor. He's got a movie called The Torturer out. You can watch it on Tubi. And even though it's low budget, watch it. And there's a lesson to be learned in there. It's really good. So Paul, he's going to shoot up. He's also in a movie called Whitetail, available at like Walmart and places. But he's an up and coming. I think he's going to fit right into the horror genre.
Now, some people might look at this conversation like, oh, wait, you went from shamanism and the paranormal to horror movies. And I have to point out, right, what is the nature of inspiration? These movies didn't come out of nowhere.
Right.
Sometimes spirit is involved. And it could be something as simple as jamming on your guitar,
Like
a picture, or making a movie.
Yeah.
Right. The muses exist and they kind of come
and like I said earlier, just if you ask yourself every day, what is the lesson I'm being taught? Even in horror movies, there's a lesson. In every horror movie that I've seen, the underlying lesson. Let's look at the great George A. Romero with Night of the Living Dead. Yeah. Well, he's talking racial culture.
Absolutely.
He's talking racism in a horror movie.
Yes.
For exactly where he was going with it. Put together on a shoestring budget, black and white in a time when there was color movies.
The first black male lead actor ever.
Oh, that's right.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
As far as I know, I'm 98% sure that that's correct, but it could be the first black male lead actor in a horror movie or ever. But I know it
certainly was unusual, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He was bringing up ideas that are completely relevant to today.
Joshua brought up a good question down there. If we want to look at that one.
This here, Joshua Dixon says, do you believe graphic horror movies affect society in a negative way? Don't get me wrong. I love a good scare. But just a question, which also could refer to like video games and such.
And that's exactly where I was going to go. Let's blame video games for Columbine and not the parents.
Oh my God, it's awful.
So agree with where you're going here.
Let's put the blame where the blame lies. I played video games. You know what? I was in a special forces unit in the Marine Corps, but do I go around killing people because that's what I did for a job? No. Let's put the blame where the blame lies. Yes, some people will say horror movie affects the genre. Well, I was 5 years old the first time I saw Hellraiser, and I'm not going out there and ripping people apart with chains.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because, here's the caveat, because I had wonderful parents.
That's right.
Who weren't afraid to beat my ass.
That's right.
Right. It's good and bad, not. But mine were the same, and I believe Kristen's were the same. And I'm familiar with the wooden spoon.
The wooden spoon, the flip flop, that came out of nowhere. Where did that come from?
I love what Eddie Murphy used to say about that. The shoe, right?
Yeah.
Shoe. Just.
Do horror movies affect society in a negative way? Well, did Richard Pryor affect society in a different way because of his comedic genius? Did Blazing Saddles change the way a society looks at minorities? No.
Or beans, for that matter.
Right. No. It's in and of themselves, they are innocuous things just trying to teach you a lesson. It all depends on your environment, if you're being raised correctly, or if you're supported. Yes, if you watch a freaking horror movie and you have absolutely no support, it could give you ideas, but would it make you go out and be a killer? No, I'm pretty sure Manson didn't watch Night of the Living Dead and decided to go crazy.
No, but his mom could have talked to him more, possibly, things like that.
Well, and if you watch the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary, and I am not taking pity on Jeffrey Dahmer, but if you watch about how his childhood was, it was horrible.
Right. Yeah, I like crime podcasts and things, and I've been down that road with a lot of Jeffrey Dahmer, different podcasts. Sorry, and I noticed that was it's not just him, but a lot of the serial killers had that kind of growing up. Their parents were terrible, or somebody's, molested them, and it's really sad.
Things trickle down,
It's really sad how they mess up their brain so much that this guy wants to go eat them, or whoever.
Right. And we'll see. And it also depends. Like, you can go one of two ways. You can go the Jeffrey Dahmer way with no support, or you can channel it and turn into Marilyn Manson, who was abused and molested by his uncle, but his parents stepped in, and so he decided to get all of his anger out in a healthy, albeit really great album. But it just that's the little sway point. You can go one way or another. It just depends on who's nudging you.
He's pretty controversial, so we don't know the whole backstory there. I know a lot of people have spoken out about Marilyn Manson, but we're fans of his music, and certainly,
and I'm not getting into his personal life, or anything.
Out in the public's eye, and I think he's done a brilliant job of that, and written some great music. So, I don't know where to stand on that, just because of all the criticism that has fallen upon it. I don't know if I can either. I mean, you can't just take everything verbatim when it comes to you through the press, or whatever. I wasn't there. I don't know.
Right.
That was just the first example that popped in my head. Probably not a very
that's
a controversial
one, but I mean, it's one extreme to the other. Of, am I gonna just act out the violence on stage? I'm not talking about the man's personal life. I don't know him. I wasn't there. But on stage. Or am I going to go and I'm going to go to a gay club and I'm going to bring these guys back and I'm going to eat their freaking hearts?
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. It's quite a leap.
Yeah.
It's quite a leap.
Yeah.
Joshua says mental health is essential to support you. Can't blame the genre. Yeah, well put, Joshua.
Yep.
I agree. I've been a metalhead since I was a little kid. It started with Kiss, for God's sakes. Digging the power and the energy of the music at a time when I could barely ride a bike. So
and there's a study that shows most metalheads are the most well-adjusted individuals.
Yes.
Because and most of the music, let's take Hatebreed for instance. All of their songs are about positivity and about improving your life and stopping bullying.
Yes, Godsmack is like that as well.
Godsmack is like that. If you listen to the lyrics,
exactly.
Sure.
Disturbed is like that as well. Society, but
could be a band that you could look at and say, well, they really stick out for the individual. They seem to be focused on people that don't feel they have a place in society.
They don't feel like they have a voice. And if you actually just look into the inner workings of the band, Head, when he got religion, right? He went out and he wasn't forcing it down people's throats. And then when he came back, they saw a change in him, and it got Jonathan Kiedis sober.
Yeah.
So
he was a real issue with that band at the time.
Right. So,
fascinating. I think he did put out one record during that time frame, and I've never heard it personally, but I think it's great that he continued to put out music, expressing his feelings at that time.
And I am huge on freedom of speech, but I'm also big on as long as you're not hurting yourself or others. So there's that fine line.
There is.
Right. And it is a fine line, especially in today's culture. They can go in so many different directions.
Awful.
And politics have become such a big thing. And
we don't talk about politics.
Well, yeah, and I'll just leave it. I'll leave it at that. We'll get off the even remote politics. But did you know that the left wing and the right wing are part of the same freaking bird?
I believe so. Or otherwise we would have be paying less for gas at this point. I don't blame Biden. I don't blame Trump. I think
it's just,
there are things that could be done if that should reflect the people's will overall.
So
to make these changes,
well,
support the people, since we have a government for a reason, right?
Well, I mean, if you even look at when the U.S. was founded, it was founded as an experiment. The Great experiment. And it's still an experiment. And, okay, whatever. As long as we take it as what it is. If we started fending for ourselves and not worrying about what other people are doing, and everybody did that, they would lose their power. If one ant you don't pay attention to, but 1,000 of them, it's something to look at.
Pay attention. Sure. In the UK, they did pass something about gross profits for oil companies, where there was a new tax to try to bring prices down. And I thought that was a little bit more of an active response.
Well, what they did with iPhone, they're making every phone manufacturer go to a USB-C. So people don't have to buy proprietary stuff. And it's trickling over here to the US.
It's like kind of picking on Apple in a way.
Well, I mean, I guess I get it, but
I don't know.
I mean, at least they're doing something, I guess was my point.
I think we want, a completely free society, but, I also think that people need help. It's not that easy for everybody, and you can't base the experience of a country on an individual. Everybody has different experiences, and we all need to be able to move forward with our lives.
Well, and if we just focused on ourselves, getting ourselves better, because we're ultimately responsible for our own. And I can say this from somebody who has mental health issues. Ultimately, we're responsible for ourselves. We're responsible for getting ourselves help. We're responsible for taking care of ourselves. And then ultimately, the goal of every person is to learn to love themselves. And once you do that, you can learn to love others. And then once that catches on, who cares? As long as we're just here trying to help each other out, get through this crazy spinning rock that's in the middle of pitch blackness, we'll all be better.
Do you think the government, and this is not a right or left side question, it is an any side question, tends to keep its people so busy that they're not able to focus on maybe some of these finer points?
It's like any great magician. Watch the left hand so you can't see what the right's doing. And I think it's all any type of large government, or look at China. It's all about theirs is more crunk up, like China, North Korea is about let's just keep the people down so that they have no other recourse other than look to us. And then we the 1%, which goes back to the very beginning of the podcast, can control it.
Wrap that right around. Yes.
And there's not enough people standing up because of fear to make a difference.
I think the China perspective that they don't necessarily always feel repressed, though. They feel like their leader has taken them up. In general, the population has more money now because they've gone to manufacturing, and those people feel like when they're looking out at the world, like, hey, I'm doing better. What's wrong with this? A perspective that Americans can't really think about because we don't see it that way.
Well, I'll recommend a book to you guys and to your viewers, but be careful before you read this. It's a very controversial book, and there's a lot of stuff in there that may piss you off, but it's a book that was written in the 40s called Pimp by Iceberg Slim. And it's a real book. This Iceberg Slim was a notorious pimp, and then he went clean, and he wrote this book about like how pimps, how they work. And it's also a prime example of government. He said that he would beat the women with a coat hanger, and then as soon as he got done beating them, he would give them Tylenol. And then he would do it. He'd beat them again and then give them Tylenol. So then they would forget about the beating and just remember the good thing that he gave them Tylenol.
Wow.
And there's so many juxtapositions in this book, but just, reader discretion, because it's very, very graphic. And just good note. In the end, Iceberg, he did go legit, and he turn from his ways, and it can be people deserve second chances. But the way he describes it is a lot of what I see in some sort of political alleys.
Okay.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And
Let's look that
Tylenol
up.
is all he gave them?
That's it. That's it. Well, that and probably bourbon, or I think it said bourbon or something.
But still, that wraps around. It's like a cycle of abuse, and that's the
Right.
like with women as well, and some men that go through an abusive relationship. That's what they remember is the good.
Yep. It's
And
the
to make
Stockholm syndrome.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
And
that-
he would, and he told how he would create that. Oh, to
Crazy.
keep, yeah. So
We all have
It's-
it.
yeah, and it's a very intense book. It is available on Audible. Just don't listen to it around kids, please.
Okay. Thank you.
kind of like our show sometimes.
Sometimes.
Well, yeah, especially the way we started off.
Well.
That was awesome.
Sorry.
That's
Well-
okay. It was funny.
I was just saying in the chats, you like horror movies, and we were thinking of coming out with a show, another show, yes, of just talking about horror movies. And
Particularly older ones.
so I was just telling, I think it was Joshua Dixon, that wait, we'll have you back a third or fourth time so we could just do a podcast on.
I am a huge B and C minus movie buff.
Oh boy.
Like one of my favorite all-time movies is going to be Satan's School for Girls.
Lovely. Sounds like
That
a title.
and one of my top 10 worst ever, I hate that I saw it, but I'd watch it again, is the movie called Teeth.
Oh, I've
If
seen
you-
that.
yeah,
We've seen that.
That's about as far as we can talk about that on this podcast. But
Yeah.
Right, that's the one where the photo is the girls in the bathtub, right? And it's kind of rising up between them.
Yeah.
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 That's fantastic.
So yeah, I enjoy it. I love movies.
Have you
Probably,
seen the B one? I'm sorry. The B, it's a B movie, but I'll Take Your Dead. That one was
Yes.
so good. It had, the story was really good to that. I really
Well,
liked
so
it.
was I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I remember the original. Yes,
That'd be
Yeah, I'm
awesome.
talking not the remake.
The
The
80s one,
the
yes.
original. What? And that's also in one of my top. And then of course, the original Hellraiser,
oh
where
yeah.
Pinhead wasn't even supposed to be like a main character at all.
Yeah.
I feel Phantasm is not as well
Ooh,
covered as it
yes.
should be.
Chris,
I-
that's
right.
my favorite movie.
With this plot of aliens coming to Earth to basically rob funeral homes and cemeteries of their deads, to shrink them and
Yep.
send them through some sort of portal
Mhm.
back to their mother planet to be slaves is the
It's
best
the original. It's the original Matrix.
ever.
Oh, yes. That's a good
Yeah,
It is the original Matrix.
it's so out
Wow.
there, especially in a time of like slasher movies.
Yep.
That comes out and you go,
That was
what are they trying to say? Plus, the effects are amazing at the time. The flying balls, those
Right.
balls,
With the blades that come out and the,
and the drill, and
Yep.
fantastic. So
Well, and and Omen was an
Oh,
underrated.
that was a good one too.
Oh,
Yeah, most
Damien
definitely.
was a bad boy.
Oh, Damien, don't make her kill herself. Don't jump off. Oh, she jumped. You know the scene I'm talking about.
Yes.
Where yep. That was, I mean, he was a bad boy making the nanny jump off the thing.
Oh,
I remember
I'm doing it for you, Damien.
that.
evil. But no,
Yes,
this has been a
thank you
fascinating
again so much.
conversation. You have to promise us before you go that you will come back.
Yes, please.
I do. I promise you. Just let me know when you would like, and we'll figure out something.
All right.
Great.
There are a lot of topics that we didn't get to
Yes,
touch
I wrote
on.
down a
but,
lot of them, but not as much as I wanted to.
I have to tell you,
Question.
we have to tell you, thank you so much
Yes.
for joining us
Again.
and coming in at the last minute.
No problem.
This has been fantastic. And
It's
what a
very
good
sweet.
conversation we had.
Yes.
Yeah, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And hopefully you guys could, do your best to come out to the Paracon that I'm putting on in March.
Absolutely. Can you tell us about that before?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I'm putting on a Paracon, my first Paracon ever that I put on. It's called A Haunting at the Mill. It will be here in the upstate of South Carolina, March 24th through 26th. Tickets are on sale now. We have a Facebook page. You can just go type in The Haunting at the Mill and you should be able to find it. It's also on our Supernatural Inc. page. There's links. I got Eventbrite going, but without giving too much away, there's 10,000 plus years of native history on this land, and we will be the first to ever investigate it professionally. And plus, I got a bunch of good guests: Sam Baltrusis, and I got Aaron G. Thompson. He was just added the other day. I got Brandy Marie, Jeremy Leonard. So I got a bunch of cool.
Fantastic! I know you got James Anito going.
Yeah, you have James.
Yeah, James Anito's going. Yeah,
we're friends with him, and we know Sam, and that is so cool. I just put the link out in our chats to join the group that's associated with that. And
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That'll go out to all our chats, and this has been great, my friend. Thank you so much. I hope you didn't feel like you were in the Inquisition with our questioning.
No, I enjoy it. I welcome it. I mean, that's kind of my job, is to bring knowledge. So without questions, I don't have a platform. So I appreciate y'all.
I feel like it's our job as well. We want everybody to understand all sides of the Hellraiser cube, if you will.
Yep.
As you play with it, because life is funny. It's like that. It's like a journey, and you don't know what you're going to get all the time, right? When you spin that Rubik's cube of life and death.
Or if we can liken it to the new Hellraiser, you never know which configuration you're going to get.
There you go.
Right.
That's awesome.
Where you try to stay in the lament configuration, but you don't.
Are we going to go all the way to Leviathan? Which, if the viewers don't know, Leviathan actually means life. That's what the word Leviathan means, is life.
And Leviathan is a demon to some.
Right. And the snake that lives in the pit of hell, supposedly. But he's the life bringer.
Tends to favor water as an element, if I'm not mistaken.
They have elements. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Again,
I know we're probably losing my audience with that, but I got a bit of a cult.
It's still there.
This has been great.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Stick around.
I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'll hang out.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. And that is all the time we have for Bigfoot and the Bunny this week.
Thank you to everybody who.
Thank you, and especially to our guest, Brandon.
Yeah.
Who came in last minute.
Yes.
We are having some internet issues with our guest, but he'll be back when the internet is better, and we'll reschedule him. Lots of good stuff to say there, and a fascinating story. We'll be back next Thursday with Dark Horse Paranormal, probably on whatever platform you're watching us now. Stay safe out there. Have a great week, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
It is our honor. Thank you.
Good night.